Hi, welcome and thank you for joining us to this edition of Coach's Corner. My name is George Webb and I'm president of the Dover-Sherburne Gridiron Association, and I'm here with Steve Ryan, who is head coach of the Dover-Sherburne Raiders. Steve, we had our season opener against Ashland with a disappointing loss of 34 to 19. A couple of thoughts on the game, and then I would love your impressions to unpack how you thought things went. But Ashland's a division up on us. They're Division 4. We're Division 5. Really hot and humid game, a lot of cramping going on, so maybe you can talk about that a little bit, and really hard fought on both sides of the ball. We look back and analyze the tape over there. They kind of did exactly what we thought they'd do, and similar to what they did last year.
Yeah, we could talk about, the numbers or the divisions, et cetera, and we've decided that we're not going to do that. We're not going to make any excuses. They came out, as you said, and did what we expected, and they beat us that night. I certainly think, in the future we would have, we'd like to play them again sometime and get back at it. And it's just disappointing, but it's one of those things we're going to learn from and we're going to move forward.
So tough team. They run the muddle huddle, and what do you call it? The wing tee. Is that what are the offense?
It's a double tight, double wing offense, and they just try to go mano a mano with you, and they had a couple of big, strong kids up front, and were able to push us. And I thought we made some great adjustments to it, and it just was a little bit too little, too late.
And that's a tough offense to defend too. We were standing on the sidelines as coaches, and when you're right up in the middle of it, it's a scrum, and you don't know who's going to pop out with the ball, and it was tough on the sidelines. It's even tougher when you're in the trenches.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. To me, it doesn't look like a whole lot of fun to run it, but at the same time, they were good enough with it, and were able to outscore us.
So that type of offense works well when you got big guys up front and they think they can just move the ball down the field, right?
Right. It's just a matter of, it's more of a rugby offense. You just start pushing against each other. And, they had a few big, strong kids up front.
So score was 34-19. We'll talk about the highlights because I did think there were some things there that were pretty good that we can walk away from on the challenge there. First drive when they took the ball first and drove it down the field, but they had 2 4th and 5s. And on a hot night like that, that kind of makes a difference, doesn't it?
Sure. It's the teams that have guys going both ways. They're going to suffer more under those conditions. And as you mentioned, the cramping, both teams had that. But, we just got to be in better condition. People have been playing both ways in football for a long time, and so we just got to get used to it, and we'll be ready for the next one.
I thought that was one of the highlights. So we can take our guys were in pretty good shape, particularly our bigger guys. I thought we had more cramping on the line. Those guys seemed to do okay. It seemed the smaller skill positions, right?
Right. Yeah. Those things happen, right? And it's hot, and it's not what they did that day, right? It's what they've done for the previous 3 days and getting ready, drinking all their water, and having the right nutrition. And we talked to them about that, and we'll try to prevent it from happening again.
So when Ashland came down, they scored on the first drive. They scored on the second drive. They scored on the third drive, right? So we were sitting down 20 to 0 at one point, and it would have been really easy for our guys just to pack it in for the night.
Right. So I was very happy with that. You mentioned there's good things to build around. There were a lot of good things to build around. And, we came back in the fourth quarter. We had the ball down by 7 points. So, we had options. We had the chance to tie the game up at that point. Unfortunately, things just didn't fall into place that time.
Watching your team and your coaching staff over the years, one thing you've been very good at, and the team and the coaches have been very good at, are adjustments. So we made an adjustment on that offense to defend against them. You want to talk about that for a little? Because once we settled down, I think our offense was I don't think they wanted to be on the field long with our guys.
Right. On defense, we went to a what was called a five front, and had to kind of cut their legs out, and before we would kind of make a pile defensively instead of trying to push against them. Offensively, we went to a more of an empty look, which is a look with just the quarterback in the backfield, and that takes some of their linebackers and puts them, they have to go cover our guys out wide, so less chance of them blitzing, and that was, they had this great delayed blitz they were running on us. So, we had, some adjustments, and they worked, and second half of the game was very, very competitive.
Really competitive. In fact, we were, like you said, we were just going in for a touchdown. We stalled, I think, on the 30 or 40-yard line. Had we gotten that, though, we would have been tied up toward the end. So we really kind of made up for the first quarter pretty nicely.
Yeah, it was a slow start, no doubt. It was a slow start, but we bounced back, and hopefully we'll keep that momentum going into the next game.
So let's talk about the momentum. I think there are a couple of highlights for the game I'll ask you about, but what do you think top of mind were, a couple of good takeaways we had?
Well, I thought Garrett threw the ball very well. We had some drops. I think some of the kids were tired towards the end of the game. We had some maybe nervous drops at the beginning of the game. So, but the good news is Garrett was under a lot of pressure for most of the game, and he got the ball out quickly and threw well. Defensively, I think our guys, performed against an offense that we're not going to see anymore. We could dwell on that the whole time, but what, we're not going to see that again. So, I'm happy with, the adjustments we made, happy with Garrett's performance. Brian Olsen had a monster game on both sides of the ball. So there were definitely some very good things.
Brian had three touchdown catches, right? So another hat trick.
Yeah, three touchdown catches. He played almost every play the entire game. He did a very good job.
And I thought our lines hung in there pretty well, too. They kept Garrett pretty clean in the first half. D struggled a little bit, but they settled down after we made the adjustment to the five-man.
Right. And, this was kind of an exception. We usually try to get more guys on that defensive line, but we had to use Jacob and Walker to go both ways because of that style of offense. It only made sense for us to do that. But, usually we won't have to do that. And, we'll get more guys in, and it takes a little more pressure off of the line. But, they were good. They were good on both sides of the ball. The running backs were good. We have a lot of good things that we can build off of.
So I think one of the things I like most, too, is the grit that the team had. Again, it wasn't only coming back after the first quarter being down 20-0, but they played every minute, every second of every minute of the game, and they gave everything.
Absolutely. They were gassed at the end of the game. They left it all out on the field, and that's all we can ask.
And we said if they play like that every game, we're going to win more than our fair share as we get into the season. So some good takeaways. Again, 34-19 loss to Ashland. Again, a little bit, I'd say Ashland pretty much had the lead the whole game and had the edge on us, but wasn't quite as lopsided as the score might have been. We're Ashland fans from here out. They're division up, so the better they do, the better it is for our MIAA rankings as we go through the season. So good luck, Clockers, as you guys go through the rest of your season. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about Hudson Hawks that are coming up next. All right? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, conductor, how about something new? You played this last year.
Come on, get your head out of your sacks.
Shh, we're trying to hear.
Well, I'm sick and tired of hearing your kid play the wrong notes. Where's my kid solo?
Why is my kid stuck way in the back?
The conductor only plays his favorites.
My kid heard. No.
You say it like that?
All right, welcome back. I'm here again with Coach Steve Ryan, who's head coach of the Dover Sherburne Raiders, and what we're going to do is take a look ahead at Hudson Hawks. Now, Hudson is a non-division game, is a division game, but a non-league game for us, and we met them in the Final 8 last year.
Right. I believe they've actually dropped into D6 this year. But out of our league, out of the Tri-Valley League, they play in a good Central Mass, very competitive league out there. And they're good, and they're looking for revenge from last year.
That was a heck of a game last year, and again, this is the one that was the monsoon game in November, and our guys at the halftime, they decided not to go into the locker room. We sat down in the end zone, and they were fired up to come out and win it. They were heavy favorites in that game. A lot of the papers in town had predicted Hudson to go all the way to North Reading at Gillette in the Super Bowl that year, but we were fortunate enough to get past them. In terms of what we should be looking for them, they have a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, great. His name is Attaway, but he was very good last year. We kind of caught him in a rainstorm, as you said. But he's the engine that makes that train run.
So he's an elite athlete, good quarterback. And then have we scouted the film? How does the rest of the surrounding cast look?
So they've lost a few players from last year, but they seem to have retooled very, very strongly. They have a good running back, a few good receivers, a very athletic line. It reminds me of our offensive line. So they've got a lot of good pieces. So
in terms of without giving up too much, game planning for what are the things we're going to be really keying in on?
Well, so they have a new coach, and you never know what to expect in those situations. But we've got to take the quarterback away. He loves to run the ball, great arm, can throw the ball. So we've got to take him out of the game, both in the air and on the ground.
On our side of the ball, we had some injuries this week, so I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about that and how we're faring.
Yeah, we're still trying to replace Emilio at the slot, and we've got a few guys stepping in doing that, and Zach Jaffe's got a twisted ankle. We expect him to be back for game time, but it's always just next guy up for us. These things happen in football. We always got to be ready for it.
And we have some pretty good depth on the team with guys stepping into positions and making plays, which has been really nice to see.
Yeah, we ask guys to play a lot of different positions. Ronan Sullivan's a great example. He played wide receiver the other day. He played slot back. He played quarterback. He played fullback for us, all on offense. And then on defense, he played every snap. And he's only a sophomore, so.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys playing, a lot of the underclassmen stepping up and playing as well. So we play Hudson here on Thursday night at is it 6:15 or 6:30?
6:30.
At 6:30 here.
Sorry, 7 o'clock game.
It's 7 o'clock. I know these things have moved around. I'm always within a half hour. But anyway, 7 o'clock game here at our field on Thursday night. Be our first home game of the season. We only have 4 home games this year. So we encourage the 12th man and all the fans to come out and watch the game. It really does help the team. And again, we aren't going to get too many of these opportunities. Maybe we'll get a playoff game or 2 toward the end of the season. But in terms of regular season, we only have 4. Steve, before we move on to the next section, any final thoughts as we get the team ready for next week?
I think you really mentioned it. That the guys played hard, and if we get that kind of effort every week, we'll win more than we'll lose.
So we're going to take a break here, and then we come back. We have a couple of fan questions for Coach Ryan, and we'll go on to thank our sponsors and wrap up. So we'll take a break here, and we'll be back in a minute.
Right. Look at me. Right. 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 Are you ready to ride? Right. Let's do it.
Distracted? Or you're telling them about your book, right?
Welcome back. We're here again with Coach Steve Ryan, head coach of Dover Sherburne Raiders. Hey, Steve, we had a couple of questions from the audience this week. One being, how are you going to get the guys back up? Because we didn't go until our 12th game of the season last year before we had our first loss. And so we've lost more in the first week than we did all of last year. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a different mindset now, right? We've got to have the attitude of bouncing back and being resilient, and that's what sports teaches you, right? So we just preach next play all the time, next play, next play, next play, and on a more macro level, it's next game. Now it's the next game, right? We can't do anything about what happened in the past. We're going to just handle what's in front of us.
And they say, winning's not everything, but I tell you, there's no worse feeling than losing after a pretty full effort, right?
Right. It's just that empty feeling, and you got to wait a whole week in football to play that next game. So, we're eager to get back on the field and get after Hudson.
There's a great quote from Rob Gronkowski a couple of years ago, and they said, what motivates your team to win? Is it, going out in the feeling of enjoying winning, or is it something else? He goes, you know what it is? He goes, we really hate Mondays after we lose. And he goes, the feeling is so bad that we make sure we work extra hard to make sure we don't have too many of those types of Mondays.
Right, that makes sense. It's that hating losing is as motivating as the love of winning.
And last year we were lucky. We had good health throughout most of the season, and by the time we got to playoffs, we were in pretty good shape. This year a little different. We started the season at Ashland without our two starting corners that we had in camp.
Yeah, that hurts. But like we said, we've had kids step up and play great. We see this as not really a negative. We always see it as an opportunity for us to get better and deeper.
And looking ahead, the rest of the division, we're one game at a time, but, Hudson coming in 1-0. Some of the other teams like Dedham and so forth. We get a quick recap. I think they had good starts too.
Yeah. So Hudson had a good game against Clinton. Dedham beat Wellesley, and Sharon also won, and we have them the week after Hudson.
Yeah, we knew we were looking at the schedule. The first 2 or 3 weeks were going to be tough this year. Ashland and Hudson, we knew wanted to come back for a little bit of payback, and we knew Sharon would be a very different team this year as well.
Yeah. So and we do that on purpose. We like to have a tough schedule. We don't see us getting anything out of beating up on the Patsies. We want to challenge ourselves every year.
Good. Dover Sherburne, thanks, Steve, for that. Dover Sherburne TV is going to put up the email address for questions for next week. Please send them in. We'll make sure that we cover all your questions that we get from the audience over here. I'd like to take a minute and thank our sponsors again. We're doing 3 per week. We'd like to thank AFC Urgent Care, Dave Adams and his team for supporting us and all that he and his family have done for us this year. We'd like to thank Door Systems with our friend Lars Nitt over there, again, for advertising with us again. And we'd like to thank the law firm of Keiko, Weissman, and Colasante. We'd like to thank Peter Keiko and his team for sponsoring Dover Sherburne Raider football this year. Again, we'd like to invite everybody to turn out on Thursday night at 7 o'clock here at our home field. For Thursday night football under the lights. Again, it's only one of 4 home games we have scheduled in the regular season this year, so we'd really like to see everybody in the community turn out. My name again is George Webb, and I'm here with Coach Steve Ryan. We look forward to seeing you all on Thursday night, and we'll be back with next week's edition of Coach's Corner.